of all of this.
I did that first, and I would be like, I was 17 when I started trying to invest in certain things, just because I knew, like, you know, unless you torn, unless you like, you don't know how long you're gonna be successful, and it's not like every artist can make it look like they getting money. If you're not a touring act, if you're not doing stuff, you're not gonna. You need an exit strategy. So I would have, like, you know, the business people around me at the time. I can't say they were good at the time, but you know, my investments were like into Burger Kings and stuff like that, just so I could have a portfolio of and you know, constant income. You know, so that was my first step. But when I really started getting into like the music side, like the executive side, it was like I was 25, and what happened was Loyal and all these other records had already been blowing up. So, and I was almost out of my contract. So I was able to negotiate. I was like, well, cool. Well, now that I have leverage as an actual not an artist, I don't want to be an artist. I want to be 50-50 profit share with you guys. Yeah. I want to have the same deal Birdman got with Universal.
Yeah,
I like, you know, I ask around trying to figure it out, so I don't have to be getting, you know, cents on the dollar.
Right.
Like, you know,
and just living off of advances.
You get what I'm saying? So from there, that was my first step. Boom. And then I think they were like, oh, and then they kind of like, you know what, fuck it, we'll do it. I'm like, shit. Then I'm like the youngest nigga with this deal right here. I don't think nobody knows, you know. So that was my first step. Then after that was me trying to own my masters. So I think when I was like 27 or 28, like by that time, it was renegotiation time, and I was like, hey, cool, I still want this, but let me get my masters from here, from I think from my Fame album and up. I said, let me get the masters from there, and then I'm able to come back and negotiate, you know, in 6 years for the first album and all of my shit. Gotcha. So being able to have that type of structured deal, like shout out to Mark Pitts again, you know what I'm saying, Peter Edge, everybody that was, you know, everybody that really kind of like looked and said, you know, we'll give him this deal, and Barry Weiss, like, he put the shit down. Like he the one that kind of allowed me to be like, you know what, here, fuck it, kid, take it. Yeah, you got it.
I mean, you have made him so much.
Yeah.
Chris Brown is one of the most complicated figures in modern black music history. Not because of a lack of talent, that part has never been debated, but because his career forces uncomfortable conversations about accountability, redemption, public memory, and how black excellence is often inseparable from public scrutiny. Few artists have reached his level of commercial dominance while carrying such a heavy and persistent shadow. Born Christopher Maurice Brown on May 5, 1989 in Tappahannock, Virginia, Brown's story begins far from the arenas and stadiums he would later sell out. Raised in a small town with limited resources, music was not initially a business plan. It was an escape. He taught himself to sing and dance by mimicking Michael Jackson performances, performing in church choirs and local talent shows long before the industry ever took notice. That raw talent didn't stay hidden for long. At just 13 years old, Brown was discovered by a local production team that recognized what many would later confirm. This wasn't just a promising kid. This was a once-in-a-generation performer. By 16, he had dropped out of high school, relocated to pursue music full-time, and signed with Jive Records. The risk paid off immediately. In 2005, Brown released his self-titled debut album, Chris Brown. The lead single, Run It, hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making him the first male artist since the mid-1990s to debut at the top of the chart. Almost overnight, Chris Brown became the new face of R&B. Young, clean-cut, charismatic, and visibly gifted in ways that recalled the legends before him, the industry embraced him quickly. So did the public. Album sales soared. Tours sold out. Media crowned him the heir to Michael Jackson's throne. And for a brief moment, Chris Brown was positioned as America's sweetheart, a rare crossover star who could dominate both pop and black radio without resistance. But fame, especially at that speed and at that age, rarely arrives without consequence. In February 2009, Brown's career was violently derailed when he assaulted his then-girlfriend Rihanna. The incident was graphic, public, and impossible to spin. Photos circulated, court documents were released, public opinion shifted almost overnight. Brown pleaded guilty to felony assault and was sentenced to probation, community service, and mandatory counseling. For many artists, that would have been the end. For Chris Brown, it became the dividing line that would define everything that followed. Corporate sponsors fled. Radio stations temporarily banned his music. Award shows distanced themselves. He went from industry darling to cultural lightning rod in a matter of days. The fall was swift and permanent in its impact. Even today, more than a decade later, his name still triggers debate before his music is ever mentioned. Yet here is where the story becomes complicated. Despite the backlash, despite the boycotts, despite the headlines, Chris Brown never stopped working. And more importantly, the audience never fully finally left. In 2011, he released FAME, an album that debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and won the Grammy Award for Best R&B Album. Songs like Look at Me Now, Yeah 3 Times, and Beautiful People dominated radio and clubs worldwide. Commercially, Brown was back, even if culturally he remained polarizing. This pattern would repeat itself for the next decade. Album after album, Brown continued to deliver chart-topping releases. Fortune, X Royalty, Heartbreak on a Full Moon, Indigo, Breezy, and 1111. His catalog grew massive. His streaming numbers exploded. His touring revenue reached historic levels. By 2025, Chris Brown had sold over 140 million records worldwide, held records for the most top 40 hits by an R&B singer, and became one of the highest-grossing black touring artists of all time. His 2024 to 2025 Breezy Bowl 20 Stadium Tour reportedly grossed hundreds of millions of dollars globally. Financially, Brown remained elite. Estimates of his net worth vary depending on the source, but by the mid-2000s, figures ranged from $50 million to over $70 million, built through album sales, streaming royalties, global tours, fashion ventures, merchandise, and business investments. At his peak touring years, Brown reportedly earned anywhere from $300,000 to over $1 million per show, depending on venue and market. Behind the scenes, he also expanded into entrepreneurship. He founded his own label, CBE, Chris Brown Entertainment, launched fashion brands like Black Pyramid, invested in restaurants, partnered in NFT projects, released consumer products like Breezy's Cosmic Crunch cereal, and explored ventures in cannabis, fashion, and digital art. But success never came without turbulence. Brown's post-2009 years were repeatedly interrupted by arrests, lawsuits, probation violations, restraining orders, and allegations. Some cases were dismissed, others resulted in convictions, several ended in confidential settlements. Each incident reinforced the narrative that Chris Brown could not escape his own volatility, no matter how successful he became. But at the same time, Brown began speaking more openly about mental health. He disclosed diagnoses of bipolar II disorder and PTSD, describing how untreated trauma, substance abuse, and fame magnified destructive behavior. In interviews and documentaries, he acknowledged moments where he spiraled, self-medicated, and nearly lost everything, including his life. This duality, extraordinary talent paired with repeated self-sabotage, became the defining tension of his career. Artistically, however, few could compete. Brown's musical versatility is nearly unmatched. He seamlessly blends R&B, hip-hop, pop, Afrobeats, dancehall, and electronic music. His vocal range, melodic instincts, and ability to write from both vulnerability and bravado set him apart. Critics who refuse to praise his personal choices often still concede his musical brilliance. Then there is the dancing. Chris Brown is not just a singer who dances, he is a dancer who sings. His stage performances are physically demanding, acrobatic, and precise. Comparisons to Michael Jackson are inevitable, not because of marketing hype, but because of the undeniable technical skill. Even his harshest critics rarely dispute his ability as a performer. That talent is why his fan base remains fiercely loyal. For millions of listeners, Chris Brown's music soundtracked adolescence, heartbreak, joy, and survival. For others, his continued success raises uncomfortable questions about forgiveness, accountability, and who society allows to move forward after public failure. And that tension is the point. Chris Brown's story is not a redemption arc neatly tied with a bow. It is not a cancellation story either. It is a case study in how black talent can be both elevated and scrutinized, how success does not erase harm, and how harm does not automatically erase legacy. He exists in the gray area, where art, accountability, money, and memory collide. Today, more than 20 years into his career, Chris Brown stands as one of the most commercially successful R&B artists in history. His catalog continues to grow. His tours continue to sell out. His influence on younger artists is undeniable. Yet his name still carries weight, not just because of what he's accomplished, but because of what he represents. A reminder that talent alone does not protect you. A reminder that fame amplifies flaws as loudly as it amplifies success. And a reminder that in black culture, greatness is often complicated, but never simple. This is Chris Brown, not a hero, not a villain, but one of the most talented and troubled artists of his generation.